Hi, my name is Taylor Bossier, and I studied elementary education with minors in leadership and psychology. This semester, I was with a third grade classroom for student teaching. The theme that I chose to focus on was teaching diverse learners. And today I will define my competency statement, the questions that guided my thinking, and then clusters of evidence to show how I have grown over time and through a variety of experiences. My competency statement is I am competent at providing a wide variety of engagement techniques throughout the learning process to increase opportunities for students to demonstrate and master their understanding. Basically, I'm saying I'm competent at using different engagement strategies to help students show their understanding and learn skills better. I think this relates to teaching diverse learners because every student learns in different ways and has different needs, and I need to be able to support them and offer them opportunities where they can show their growth and what they really do understand. I defined engagement as students are on task, students are participating, and they're showing strong effort and they're being active about their own learning so that they can grow. The questions that guided my thinking and presentation are, how can I make the necessary accommodations to engage more learners and all learners in my classroom? What knowledge, skills, and strategies should I use to reach all learners? And how can a teacher engage and motivate a variety of learners? My first piece of evidence is from my math block practicum. During this semester, I was with a third grade classroom and was noticing students consistently had a really hard time staying focused, being on task, and learning when we were in whole group situations. There was specifically one student who was always getting in trouble for the behaviors that would arise because he was not on task, he wasn't participating or showing effort, and it's because it just wasn't enough for him. He was really good at math, and he just didn't feel like he was being challenged or given opportunities to really show what he was good at. When I was preparing the math lesson that I was going to teach, I really wanted to prepare it in a way that would be engaging for students, that they would be excited, and that they could be focused and on task the whole time. I began to research on my own ways that I could improve my lesson and find ways to make it engaging, and that's when I found the Kagan Cooperative Learning Strategy, Quiz, Trade. And this strategy just had students going around the classroom. They were able to ask each other questions that we had just learned about based on multiplication, and then on the back, if their partner was kind of struggling or wasn't sure how to answer, they could coach them through the steps to think about what they should do to solve this problem, and then they would trade the cards and go find another partner. And we did this for a really long time. We did this for 10 or 15 minutes, multiple rounds of students being able to quiz each other and practice these skills. I felt like a really effective teacher because after using this strategy in this math lesson, all of my kids were on task the whole time. They were participating. Even the student who usually would be in trouble by at this point was really excited to go work with his peers, to go work with a partner, to show what he knows. And he was on task the whole time, and I just felt like I was a capable teacher who could see what her students' needs and could help them and make the necessary accommodations so that when they are learning, they are set up for success. Moving into my second cluster of evidence, this is through my lit block semester and my tutoring semester. Previously, I had only learned one technique and used it in one subject. And so coming in to these next two semesters, I wanted to research more and know more so that I could use them in a variety of subjects. I was with fifth grade for my lit block, and I remember a lot of my students did not like whole group reading. I had quite a few ELL students, and reading was really hard for them. And I also had students who had reading goals, which means that they would usually go to a sped classroom, but they were with us for whole group reading. And I saw a lot of them just really struggle most of the time with reading. They felt like they couldn't contribute because they weren't great at reading. It was a trigger for some behaviors. And so I decided when I was teaching the reading lessons that I was going to find ways to keep students engaged. I had students stand up, hand up, pair up, which is a technique that's also a Kagan cooperative learning strategy. And I had students talk about how they could relate this story to their own lives and what they took away from it and how they really connect to the story. No student had to write about it. No student had to keep reading to talk about it. We had already read the story together, and now they were able to go find a partner and talk about how they really relate to this, and I saw every single student on task. Every student was participating. They wanted to share with their partner what they took away from the story, what they really learned, and how it relates to their own life. Again, they were just being really active about their learning, which was my whole goal of incorporating engagement strategies, that students were excited and that they wanted to focus and be on task. Once again, I was just feeling like these engagement strategies were working and they were creating a really positive outcome for my students and the way they could grow and learn in different subjects. Moving on to evidence 3. This whole cluster of evidence is from my student teaching experience. Coming into student teaching, I felt like I was getting close to being competent at engagement strategies and finding ways for students to be on task better and to be excited about learning. I really wanted to focus on finding technology-based strategies, though. Coming into student teaching, I was nervous about technology-based ones, thinking that if a kid is plugged into a screen, it will be more of a game and not a learning opportunity for them. But through Paradox and quizzes specifically, I saw that students really enjoyed learning through technology and the tools we were giving, they are given in the classroom. Paradox and quizzes give you data right away, so I could see literally right away in my lesson all 21 of my kids were on task. They were all trying their best. They were contributing to our conversation. Their answers were put on the board, and so students wanted to participate. They wanted their classmates to see what they understand and what they know. These were really fun strategies to use for my kids. We continued to use other collaborative-based ones based on conversation, based on finding partners, working in groups, moving around the room and learning new things. I can think of 2 specific kids, one who was reading at 2 grade levels below, 3rd grade, and one student who really struggles with writing, and it was a huge trigger for her. But because I was using different engagement strategies to really check their understanding and to hear what they were learning, they were both on task. They didn't shut down anymore. They were excited to come to school and to participate because they knew that I wasn't going to have them write every single answer they knew or just keep reading and reading and reading even if it's hard. I was giving them opportunities to go tell their peers what they learned, to come tell me what they've learned, to show what they've learned instead of having to write it or just read it, which were really hard for them. They could still contribute and still be on task. That was just really important to me, that I was giving any type of learner a way to respond and feel included and to show that they were learning and on task. In student teaching, I was also able to attend a professional development day, and the professional development day was based on cooperative learning and engagement strategies. Amber County is a middle school counselor, and she's a professor at Doane, and she came in and taught us a bunch of different strategies that we can use in the classroom. Whoop. So we just went through pages and pages of new ones that we could use in what situations, partner or group or whole class we could use them in. It was a really cool time and opportunity to work with my team specifically on 3rd grade to decide which ones are going to work best for our students, in what subjects could they work best for. My cooperating teacher and I really got to dig deep and think about our 21 kids and what they need, how we could support them best, and when we could use strategies most effectively. We ended up changing our entire day 2 reading lesson to focus on implementing new strategies so that we really could see what are students understanding, what do they already know, and then when we're planning future lessons, how could we come back to the skills they don't know yet and we could review. By using these, because all of our students were on task, we got the most accurate data that we could to see, okay, all of our students were participating, all of them know this, we can move on. We can just review it later. Just by using these, we got so much great data, and we could use it accurately to plan more lessons in the future. Looking back overall, on the orange little shout outs, you can see that when I was becoming competent, I was still at only 75% engagement of all my kids for a whole lesson. And I was only providing about 25 opportunities to respond. Not bad, but I knew that there was a lot of growth for me to make, and I was passionate about growing in this specific regard to keeping kids on task and engaged so that they were learning the most they could. Coming into student teaching, I was very focused on finding ways for my students to be engaged. I prepped my lessons very strategically and with great care, so I knew exactly what strategy I was using, why I was using it, how it was going to work for my students. And through formal and informal observations, I reached an average of 100% engagement for a whole lesson, and on average 135 opportunities to respond for my entire lesson, which was a significant increase, and I think goes to show that I have become competent in this regard, but it did take time. It takes a lot of practice and diligence. The biggest ideas I can take away from this theme and providing engagement techniques is that as an educator, it is my job to see, understand, and accommodate students' individual strengths and needs so that they can be as successful as they can be. And as a teacher, it's also my role to modify research-based strategies so that students are given the appropriate opportunity to respond, they're engaged, and they're motivated to learn. I think this relates to my competency because I have grown in and learned some of the best ways to engage my students so that any type of learner can participate in learning. When reflecting on all of my years at UNL and specifically the classroom experiences that I've shown today, I think as a person I've learned I am good at seeing students' needs and making the necessary accommodations to help them. And as a teacher, I've very much learned that every student has different needs, but there's always a way to accommodate them all, and there are strategies to ensure every single student is on task and engaged. One limitation is that when I'm being observed for student engagement, students could physically look on task but may not mentally be on task, which is just something that is hard to gauge when you're being observed. But when I can get feedback from technology-based ones, I can ensure that my students are on task and they were engaged. An improvement for myself and all educators is to always be reflecting and adjusting your teaching. The strategies I'm using now may work really great, but next year I'll have a new group of kids with new needs, and so I'll need to reevaluate which ones will work best for them. In the future, I hope as a teacher I can motivate my students to be excited about learning and motivated to collaborate and grow with one another. I know that this will take a lot of continued learning though, and so I hope to always be researching and learning the new engagement strategies as they become prevalent and learn how to use them best for my students. A short-term goal of mine is to always be attending professional developments like the one I was able to, working with master teachers and just other professionals, so I am expanding my toolbox and gaining new ideas from them as well in their experiences. And a long-term goal of mine is to pursue my master's degree in leadership. I think if I can build effective habits as a teacher and I'm implementing curriculum and engagement strategies with fidelity, that I can be a strong example for others and to help them do the same in their classroom. These are the ways that I think I have grown in my years of UNL and what I feel competent in as I enter the professional world of teaching.